Welcome to a trip to another land. Hello, my name is Dr. Elizabeth Beeson. I'd like to share with you some beautiful pictures taken on an unforgettable trip to mainly South Dakota and Nebraska. I hope you find within this presentation an opening in your heart for the Native American people who have suffered much loss, and explore within the depths of God's love how we as a blessed nation can make a difference to understand, listen, learn, teach, and help these people. Thank you for joining me. Bear Butte Mountain is about the most sacred place in South Dakota for Native Americans. Although it is not a real butte due to not having a flat top, Bear Butte was about to be a volcano at one time. In the area, there are many rattlesnakes which have scared off many people in large groups. I started ascending up towards Bear Butte on foot and was told I made it to the base of the mountain. However, I turned back when I saw a snake skin that had been shed. One good thing about the area of Bear Butte is that there is a natural lake, not a man-made lake. I've been told that it is the only natural lake in South Dakota. If you look beyond the lake, you can see the Black Hills. Bear Butte is a place where Indians still go and pray today and have had visions there. We were asked to not take pictures of the prayer flags that the Indians use. The flag's colors, however, are blue, red, yellow, black, green, and white. 17 different tribes have used Bear Butte Mountain for ceremonies. Frank Fool's Crow, ceremonial chief of the Teton Lakota, lived 1890 to 1989. He visited Bear Butte frequently. Some believed that he gained many healing powers from the mountain. Black Elk from the Wounded Knee Massacre was his uncle. Fool's Crow dedicated his life to respect and unity for all people. He was a great leader and a great gentleman. The Black Hills National Forest does not include all of the Black Hills, although they are all quite beautiful. In the Black Hills National Forest, we drove up to Terry Peak at 7,000 feet. There, we found snow in May as well. This peak is known as the second highest peak in the forest. We also went to Spearfish Canyon, located as well in the Black Hills National Forest. This was one of the places where the film Dances with Wolves was shot. We went to the actual site and saw the sign describing the winter scene from the movie. This was only one location for this Kevin Costner film production shot in South Dakota. There is such a beauty in the Black Hills National Forest that it is breathtaking, with a manifest awesome silence by just looking up from the ground to the tall and perfectly aligned, straight and majestic trees. The spirit felt is out of this world. Then knowing that in the stillness of an isolated moment in time, the regal feeling of well-being and satisfaction in life have no comparison. Further acknowledgments as credits in Dances with Wolves are the beautiful Badlands National Park. How exquisite! For example, the height from above, where slopes can be walked, and then looking below to the bottom, is indescribable. Looking across the formations that can be circled, if time allows, is breathtaking. If you want an opportunity to listen to the grand silence of God's beauty in this place, it can be done. If you decide to walk some of the sloped grass grounds during early May, be careful for snakes in the park. They are shedding their old skins, as I discovered. But the Badlands National Park is so beautiful. I just wanted to walk wherever I could. We saw the beautiful Buffalo Gap National Grassland, which went on for miles and miles. We also saw Mount Rushmore and Crazy Horse Memorial in the Black Hills. The 4 presidents of the United States are finished beautifully carved in the rocks. Crazy Horse is not finished. Only his head has been carved, yet it is amazing what the entire figure will look like when finished. There is a small model there for visitors to observe. What a sight, especially when no photograph of Crazy Horse exists today. In the Black Hills, we also traveled along the Needles Highway, which leads into many needle-like rock formations that are said to be so old that at one time they were all in the ocean. It has also been said that South Dakota itself was all in the ocean at one time. The eye of this needle is awesomely curious, as the formations are in a layout very conveniently for the tourists to stop and walk in a circular area. Getting to the eye of the needle is not so easy, however, because the location is quite elevated up in the Black Hills. Although we spent much time in the Black Hills in South Dakota, the Black Hills also extend into Wyoming, where we crossed over the border for a little while to observe its beautiful terrain. Pine Ridge Reservation. What a beautiful sight that Chief Red Cloud, a leader of the Oglala Sioux Indians, had lived in before he died. I'm referring to the Pine Ridge Reservation. His resting place is up on a hill very close to the actual place of Wounded Knee Massacre of 1890. As I approached his grave after walking over to see where this great chief had been laid to rest, I folded my hands in quiet respect, remembering how he cared so much for his people and made sure, through much effort, to have a school where nuns of the Catholic faith would eventually teach the youth of his people. Although the government policy had declared Pine Ridge Reservation as Episcopal, Red Cloud wanted the Jesuits to set up the school. Red Cloud felt the Jesuits gave more freedom to the indigenous people it educated. Before he died, Red Cloud got his wish. I walked over to Red Cloud Indian School on a Saturday while at Pine Ridge, and the administration building was open. I asked what courses were taught in this school that goes from kindergarten through 12th grade. The lady working there said the usual academics in reading, writing, math, science, computer, etc. were taught, and also Catholic religious studies as well as Lakota Indian spirituality. I also saw the Oglala Lakota College there on the reservation. I did get to see one textbook that was used at the college to teach the dialect language of Lakota. As I looked at the book, I thought it would be too hard for me to understand what they were teaching, since I wasn't familiar with many of the sounds from the language that are unlike Texas American English. Nearby, I bought an easier language book in Lakota called Everyday Lakota. I still will have to be tutored on some pronunciation. There is a separate building or organization on the reservation called Early Head Start, which is connected with Oglala Lakota College. However, this building is away from the main Oglala Lakota College campus. The residential homes on the reservation vary. Some are nice houses, others are trailers. Some homes are kept fairly well and some aren't, from what I could see, since I was only looking from the outside. There is much rural area, but beautiful land with a lot of green grass. There was more than one church. One was Catholic and one was Episcopal from what I saw. There even was a church at the top of the hill close to where the Wounded Knee Massacre occurred. The cemetery, where Chief Red Cloud was buried, was also at the top of this same hill, and his school was below. The villages were small villages, but the Pine Ridge Village is like the headquarters for the Pine Ridge Reservation. This village had a Department of Transportation, Sanitation, and other administration places. We also passed through Porcupine Village and Oglala Village, also on the Pine Ridge Reservation. Fort Robinson in Nebraska was where Crazy Horse was stabbed and killed on September the 5th, 1877. He was stabbed fairly close between two buildings that we saw, the guardhouse and the building where the adjutant's office was, but a little away from each building. The guardhouse I saw was duplicated as it was before, except there was no porch. Crazy Horse finally died in the adjutant's office. I stood at the place that showed where Crazy Horse was stabbed that day. I placed my hands on the bars of the guardhouse where Crazy Horse entered at first before he was told to turn back. Turning Bear, who went ahead of him that day in the guardhouse, had spotted prisoners in the next room where the door was somewhat open. I looked to see the open door through the window of this guardhouse and both rooms. The second room that Crazy Horse was warned about was the prison room, where I stood to place my hands over the bars. When I entered the fort to spend the night, I wanted to be at the same fort where this great Sioux Indian chief spent his last breath. Although told ahead of time that there would be no telephones or TV, I did not care. I slept at Fort Robinson in an officer's quarters without those conveniences. Knowing that Indians later moved out of the Fort Robinson area sometime after Crazy Horse's death, I would not trade the experience I had of going there. Fort Hays. Another scene that was shot in South Dakota for the Dances with Wolves movie was at a place called Fort Hays, located not far from downtown Rapid City. Although the picture taken for the props used in this scene did not turn out, I saw 3 buildings used in the movie at this location. One building at least was built specifically under Kevin Costner's production, where he entered this building to address the major before going immediately to Fort Sedgwick. In the movie, the major shoots himself in this building in a specific room, which I walked back to, where I saw the major's desk and the spot pointed out where Kevin Costner actually stood. I stood there as well. However, this building and the other 2 buildings, which were all props for the movie, had been moved from the original location about 13 to 16 miles away within about 3 years after the movie was released or copyrighted. The privilege of going to places that were like a paradise of land that was so appreciated by some of our Native American brothers and sisters was intensely rewarding. I felt like I was a part of the land which was this paradise. What we saw in South Dakota, Nebraska, and even in Wyoming was so beautiful that I felt like the story of what I knew of our American heritage was a little more complete. American Indians are a part of us, and we are a part of them, because we share in God's creation, which God meant for man and all living creatures to enjoy. Let us strive for peace and harmony in our land. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Beeson. Thank you for joining me in this production. Pilamayaye, which means thank you. My grateful acknowledgement to Bob Zurich for his faithfulness in guiding all travel plans and managing photography, staff from Memorial Drive United Methodist Church in Houston, Texas for putting together this production, and Jay Nash for his music production.